I had to play the hostess of quite a bit when, especially when we lived in India, and we shared a house with him, so we would often receive guests. And I remember the Bangalore meditation group came one time to visit, and he was so often tired, and his health was unpredictable. It was hard to know when he would be up and ready for visitors or when he was so tired that having visitors was really a strain on his heart. But this time, he was very happy to receive them, and he was expecting the usual, let's have tea, answer questions, and all of that. And instead they said, Swami, we just want to meditate with you. And he was thrilled. So often, visitors would come, they would get this precious interview, a 15-minute interview with Swami Kriyananda, and they had usually waited weeks, maybe months, to get this time slot. And we were always amazed. Often he would have us with him. Dharmadas used to do English to English translation because sometimes our Indian friends' accents were such that Swami, with his hard of hearing difficulty, couldn't quite understand. So one of us, usually Dharmadas, would say it more loudly into his good ear so that he could understand the question better. But so often these visitors would have their cell phones, and their cell phone would go off and they would take the call. And it just was unbelievable to us that they would waste that opportunity. And another story that comes to mind is that in the, I guess in the 80s, early 80s, and then again in the late 80s, because I lived in the Italy ashram from 85 to 88, really 86 to 88, because I came in November of 85. But we would have these incredible evenings outside at the Crystal Hermitage. And Swami would have us set up on the flagstone around the swimming pool. And if you remember what that lower garden looks like, it's a balustrade looking over the beautiful hills down to the river, all forest land. And then there's the flagstone, and then the pool, and then a green lawn going up to the house. So we would use the flagstone with the balustrade as a stage. And people would sit on the grass, either in chairs or on blankets. And it was absolutely heavenly. Often we would floating candles in the swimming pool with flowers. Truly, it was heaven on earth. And in those early 80s, we would often just do Swami singing Indian bhajans, for example. We had Shakespeare plays out there with all of Swami's Shakespeare music. Many, many different kinds of concerts, and a series throughout the summer. And just like the person taking the cell phone call, I would often marvel at how few people in the community would come. Of course, we'd get a good crowd, um, 40 or 50 people, but the community was a couple hundred or more. And when I would ask people, they would say, "Oh, I was so tired after work, and it's such a long way to go from one end of Ananda to the other end of Ananda." And I often thought of those days and what precious memories they hold, and such priceless opportunities to be with such a great soul as Swami Kriyananda. And so when we think of, oh, it's so hard to go to Sunday service, or I'm too tired to go to the kirtan, or those sorts of things, let's remember what an incredible blessing it is to be with devotees who love God freely, without any restriction. We have a dear friend in Russia, an elderly person, but he has great energy, even at his age. And he lived through the KGB regime and great times of trouble in the Soviet Union, in which he couldn't even get spiritual books. And if he was found to have spiritual books, he would be in a lot of trouble. And so he told us of reading Autobiography of a Yogi, just a few mimeographed pages at a time. And what a treasure they were. What an incredible boon they were. And sustenance and foundation for making it through life. So let us remember to take advantage of the incredible freedom and opportunity that we have. While bombs are not falling on our heads like the people in Ukraine, and let's take the opportunity to heart and be with others who love God and bond with them and share that deep and abiding privilege that we have. I just wanted to mention a very sweet and interesting story about, I couldn't read my own handwriting there for a second, people trying to get along with each other. And we were not personally involved in this story, but we heard about it, and it's a great lesson in keeping and sustaining and creating harmony in relationships. And there were different people who were at each other. They didn't agree with how to do certain things. They were upset. They were disharmonious in whatever way. And the two people who were most responsible for sort of the government of Ananda and policies and so on, talked this over with Swami. And what Swami said to them was that these other people who were being so disharmonious, they are doing the best that they can for who they are. And these other friends took that in, and then they said, well, Swami, how are we doing? And Swami said, you're doing the best you can for who you are. And so from that, it started to settle down. And they all learned more acceptance and more love and understanding, and realize that people have good intentions. They are doing the best they can for where they are on the spiritual path in their evolution, for who they are. So let us take that to heart and use that as a modus operandi for creating more and more harmony in our lives.